Hi, my name's Graham and welcome to Racing Home. At the weekend I went to the Carole Nash Classic Bike Guide Winter Classic at the Newark Showground. Basically I'd seen it advertised and I thought, well, I'll go along because Peter Hickman was going to be the guest speaker. But having looked on the web to check what times it started and stuff like that, it said there'd been a change to the programme, and because of testing commitments with GB Moto, Peter Hickman wasn't going to be actually at the show. Steve Plater would be hosting the chat show and guest of honour would be James Whitham. So I'm a big James Whitham fan anyway, so I thought I'll toodle along, why not? It's only an hour down the road, so I said to my dad about it and he said he'd come along as well. Yeah, so we had a wander around the first show hall, and then we ended up at the little stage thing where James Whitham was doing his talk show, and he was there with Steve Plater just pottering about, chatting to people and getting pictures done and selfies and all that kind of stuff. And I got me James Whitham autobiography signed by him, which was top of the range, because the last time I got James Whitham's autograph was in 1988 at Carole Park. I got him, Phil Mellor and Mick Grant that time. So I said that to him and he goes, oh, that would have been when I was winning quite a few races, which is true, because he was racing the GSXR 750J then, the production bike. He won the British Production Bike Championship that year, and he was racing that, GSX 600 in Super Sport, that thing that looked a bit like a teapot, and obviously had his F1 bikes as well. I know he'd wanted to race in Superstock that year because it was quite big money at the time, but I think he was on Michelin tyres and Superstock were just on those Dunlop control tyres, so he couldn't actually do it. And he had a couple of his restored bikes there. He had a 1995 TZ250, and he also had the X7 that he's been doing up in Classic Motorcycle Mechanics. So me and my dad got chatting to James, and he was telling us about his X7. When he first got it, it was all complete, but basically it was a bit rough. He said at a distance it looked fine, but when he got close up it was real rough, and he was showing pictures of he'd had to fill the bottom of or replace part of the bottom of the tank where it had sat with, obviously, I don't know, water condensation had built up in the tank and it had started rotting through the bottom of it. So he repaired that, and it was really good. It did look like showroom condition. It looked like it would have come out of the showroom in 7980 when they first came out. So I was talking to James about his TZ250 he's got. He said he's had it the engine totally rebuilt. He's actually taken it out on the track a few times, and I'd seen on Twitter the day before, I'd had a quick look at his Twitter feed, see if he had any other bikes, and he actually had a RS250 Honda on there. I was asking him about that, and he says, yeah, it's pretty much recommissioned now. He'd had it sprayed up in brochure colours, which I think it was white with basically like an orange stripe or something on it. So yeah, that's another bike of his. What was the other one he had? Oh, he showed us he had a Suzuki Stinger, which is like I think it's twin cylinder 150cc kind of bike. It's weird though because the exhaust pipes don't come out at the bottom, they sort of come up and along by the side of the seat like you'd sort of do on a trials bike or a motocross bike, but they do them on both sides. And he had a video of that on his iPhone because he'd actually sold it off to some fella, and his latest project he bought himself, I think it was a TY80 he was saying that he was going to start doing. So yeah, he's got a few bikes and stuff. Yeah, I was talking to him and I said I wish I kept hold of me Fizzy, because obviously they're worth like about £500 now in any state. And I said, oh, I flogged it for 60 quid when I got rid of it. And he says, oh yeah, that's the price I paid for the first one I bought. So there you go, small world, eh? I asked him, did he have a YZF 750 like his Fast Orange bike? And he told me that yeah, he'd been given it by Yamaha when he won the championship in 1993, but he'd actually sold it to some guy so he could use the money as his deposit for his first house. He said the bloke still actually got the bike complete from when he bought it, so it's still out there somewhere. After I'd spoken to James Whitham, I spoke to Steve Plater, and I asked him the question that I've been waiting for to get the answer for 12 years. basically when he raced for Honda Britain in 2003 on the VTR 1000 SP2, he did quite well that year. I think he won a couple of races. I know he won a race at Carole Park, and if his chain hadn't come off on the mountain, he would have won the first race as well. And I think he won at Brands Hatch, I think it was, or Alton Park, one or the other. But I asked him, obviously the next year, 2004, Honda Britain got the brand new HRC prepared Fireblades. And I asked him how come he didn't end up riding them, because you would have thought he would have done, because they were like, I know at the time I read in Motorcycle Racer magazine that he'd moved back to Virgin Yamaha because he thought the Virgin bike would be more developed. Whereas at the time I thought that was crazy, because obviously it's a blooming, he's going to be racing a HRC Honda. But I asked him, and basically, yeah, he did think the Yamaha would be more developed, and also that there was a couple of people in the actual team that he didn't get on with, so he was happier going back to Rob Mack and Virgin Yamaha. But unfortunately, I think he crashed at Alton Park early in the season. He broke his wrist, and he also badly damaged his rotator cuff on his shoulder. So that sort of stymied his season. And I suppose you could say, looking back, that was perhaps the start of the beginning of the end of his superbike career to some extent. So while I was at the show, I thought I'd splash out. I was looking at the bookstores, and I came across this. Basically, a book about Philip McCallan, his racing story. I was reading it, and the woman who worked on the stall said, "Oh, how much for this?" And she said, £25. I'm like, that's a bit pricey. She's going, "Oh, I'll drop it to 20." And I was like, "Oh, it's still a bit rich for me. How about 15?" So she asked the bloke who was in charge of the stall, and he said, "Yeah." So I got it for 15. So I was happy enough with that. It probably cost that when it was new donkeys years ago. So yeah, go for it.